Good morning, y'all. Today we're going to continue our study of Ezekiel, written by Pastor Lancelot Knight of the former King's Chapel. We're in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 5, and we're going to be starting today with verse 6. But before that, we're going to have a little bit of background discussion here by Lance Knight. So here we go. Did you know that there are no surprises with our Father concerning his letting the children know exactly where he stands on the issues, those issues being his law and his will? He does not conduct focus groups nor take opinion polls to determine what's popular, so his word never changes. Even as it is written, he is the same yesterday, today, and forever. That's in Hebrews 13:8. Remember, Yahweh Elohim brought his people, the children of Israel, out of the land of Egypt with a mighty hand, out of their bondage to be free men, to be inheritors of his great blessings, and to be his holy people. He later gathered them all together in a family assembly at Mount Sinai and made a covenant with them, whereby he promised them wonderful blessings if they would walk in his statutes and keep his commandments, and he promised them severe punishment if they did not hearken unto him and did not keep his commandments and despise his statutes. That was about 1491 BC. It would serve the dedicated student well to read the 26th chapter of Leviticus before completing this chapter 5 of Ezekiel, for the punishment is happening exactly as he said it would. Then, 1,000 years later, one day later to Yahweh, 2 Peter 3, our Father makes a special trip from heaven in his SUV, the space utility vehicle, with his throne on board to visit the priest and the prophet Ezekiel. He is very concerned about the plight of his children and furiously angry that they have so rebelled against him, but nevertheless they are going to get what's coming to them. So from his throne, Yahweh Elohim directed his servant Ezekiel to prepare a model and illustrate the city of Jerusalem under siege and his people receiving their punishment. Ezekiel demonstrated the famine of the people would endure and the type of dung bread they would eat, which is how our Father views their disgusting doctrines, theories, and traditions of men, which he calls abominations. You have to admit he sure has given us a pretty good picture of what would happen to Jerusalem and his children, hasn't he? Our Father will now basically repeat that which he foretold at Mount Sinai, the reasons why Jerusalem, his holy city, and his people would suffer captivity and punishment, and he places very special emphasis on the time of the end when the four winds are present, verse 12, and when the famine would be increased, verse 16. Here are the sins of Jerusalem. Ezekiel 5, verse 6. And she hath changed my judgments into wickedness more than the nations, and my statutes more than the countries that are round about her. For they have refused my judgments and my statutes, and they have not walked in them. Jerusalem and his people were placed in the center of the nations to be a beacon and a blessing unto all the nations of the world. But they rebelled against his law and order and sinned worse than the nations around them. Are his people today walking in Yahweh's judgments and statutes? It used to be that to become a judge in the nation, you had to know the books of Leviticus and Deuteronomy. Not anymore. Yet the promises of Leviticus 26 are as binding today as they were when they were given. For sure, our Father is not happy and is growing weary with our corrupt judiciary. Verse 7, Therefore, thus saith Yahweh Elohim, because ye multiplied more than the nations that are round about you, and have not walked in my statutes, neither have kept my judgments, neither have done according to the judgments of the nations that are round about you. Multiplied means rebelled, and the verse is self-explanatory. The one nation under Yahweh is busy trying to get out from under Yahweh by throwing prayers out of the schools and taking his 10 commandments off the walls of our city, state, and federal government facilities. We make our Father look and feel badly, even angry. The hairs on one's head are supposed to make one look good. Instead, as the hairs on Ezekiel's head were shaved off, Yahweh's people are constantly giving him a bad hair day. Ezekiel 5, verse 8. Therefore, thus saith Yahweh Elohim, Behold, I, even I, am against thee, and will execute judgments in the midst of thee, in the sight of the nations. A public thrashing, a public spanking, so to speak. This he has done in the past, but you ain't seen nothing yet. Just wait until we become one nation under Antichrist. Or I might add, one nation under the instead of Christ, the spurious Messiah. Verse 9. And I will do in thee that which I have not done, and whereunto I will not do any more the like, because of all thine abominations. There is nothing more abominable to our Father than seeing his children loving and cuddling up to, and even jumping in bed with, the abomination of desolation, i.e., the desolator who is Satan, spoken of by Daniel the prophet. And when he comes in person, they will love Mr. Dung, because they have been eating his bread for a long time now. Ezekiel 5:10. Therefore, the fathers shall eat the sons in the midst of thee, and the sons shall eat their fathers, and I will execute judgments in thee, and the whole remnant of thee will I scatter into all the winds. This is a direct reference to Leviticus 26, verse 29. And ye shall eat the flesh of your sons, and the flesh of your daughters shall ye eat. Now you better know that our Father is not going to sanction cannibalism. So what in the world could he be talking about? We've discussed in the past lessons the difficulty of trying to translate idioms and figures of speech from one language to another, when those who speak the latter don't understand the original meaning as a figure. I use the example of that verse in the New Testament, read in the Greek. The Apostle Paul got into hot water. That we would have churches today who would require their members to get into a pool of hot water in order to be in good standing. There would be books and papers written on subjects such as how much hot water a person should actually get into, whether they should be totally immersed or not, and precisely what temperature constitutes hot and not just warm. All this would be part of mainstream Christianity, when in fact the verse had absolutely nothing at all to do with water, but simply meant he got into trouble. You would be totally amazed at how many traditions of men stem from the ignorance of the original languages. To eat one's descendants simply means to consume away their heritage. The Israelites would do this to the point that they know not from whence they cometh. In other words, the house of Israel has consumed away its heritage to the point that they are lost as to who they actually are. So they are called the lost tribes of the house of Israel. Worse yet, most of them believe they are Gentiles. Ezekiel 5, verse 11. Wherefore, as I live, saith Yahweh Elohim, surely because thou hast defiled my sanctuary, with all thy detestable things and with all thine abominations. Therefore will I also diminish thee, neither shall mine eyes spare, neither will I have any pity. How have his people defiled his sanctuary? They lay dung cakes upon the altars and feed them to the people. They bring in Ishtar bunnies and flyaway rapture theories and turkey gobble babble gum and teach everything under the sun except thus saith Yahweh Elohim. They practice religion, not Christianity. Our Father is not going to have any pity on them, i.e., he is not going to feel sorry for them because they have it coming. They deserve what they get. They should know better. They have his word before them and they ignore it and eat the bread handed down to them by tradition. Verse 12. A third part of thee shall die with the pestilence, and with famine they shall be consumed in the midst of thee, and a third part shall fall by the sword round about thee, and I will scatter a third part into all the winds, and I will draw out a sword after them. Yes, this happened historically for us to see, but when all the winds are mentioned, all four of them, it points to the time of the end and the captivity of the soon-coming king of Babylon, the Antichrist himself, or the spurious Messiah. Nevertheless, our Lord is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Here are the same punishments of verse 12 from the yesterday. Leviticus 26, verse 25. And I will bring a sword upon you that shall avenge the quarrel of my covenant. And when ye are gathered together within your cities, I will send pestilence among you, and ye shall be delivered into the hand of the enemy. 26. And when I have broken the staff off your bread, 10 women shall bake your bread in one oven, and they shall deliver you your bread again by weight, and ye shall eat and not be satisfied. This verse is speaking of famine and is saying that only one oven will be needed to bake the bread to feed 10 families. That's how little supply there will be. Notice it is portioned by weight, just as Ezekiel weighed and rationed the bread. Leviticus 26, verse 23. And I will scatter you among the heathen, and will draw out a sword after you, and your land shall be desolate, and your cities waste. And so he did scatter them among the nations. Again, he is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Here is the famine and pestilence foretold from the mouth of Yeshua. Matthew 24:7. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in divers places. We all know that the famine of the end time is for the hearing of the true word of Yahweh. Amos 8:11. Behold, the days come, saith Yahweh Elohim, that I will send a famine in the land, not a famine of bread, nor a thirst for water, but of hearing the words of Yahweh. Ezekiel 5, verse 13. Thus shall my anger be accomplished, and I will cause my fury to rest upon them, and I will be comforted, and they shall know that I, Yahweh, have spoken it in my zeal, when I have accomplished my fury in them. They shall know that Yahweh does exactly what he says he's going to do. Verse 14. Moreover, I will make thee waste, and a reproach among the nations that are round about thee, in the sight of all that pass by. So I will make a public example of you before all the surrounding nations, and before everyone traveling past the ruins of your land. And that's from the Living Bible. Always watch Jerusalem. It is the focal point of prophecy. Verse 15. So it shall be a reproach and a taunt an instruction and an astonishment unto the nations that are round about thee, when I shall execute judgments in thee in anger and in fury and in furious rebukes. I, Yahweh, have spoken it. I want to stop here a minute and go back where Lance says, always watch Jerusalem. It is the focal point of prophecy. Well, a couple of years ago, I guess back during the presidency of the 45th president, Donald J. Trump, remember when he had the embassy of the U.S. embassy moved from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem? I wonder if that's going to be significant in prophecy. I bet it will. Do you learn from examples, or must you endure the unpleasant experience yourself in order to get the point? The school of hard knocks sometimes works very well, but there are no guarantees. But it is the stupid, sottish man's way. The wise see what our Father has to say, and they believe him and act accordingly. Verse 16. When I shall send upon them the evil arrows of famine, which shall be for their destruction, and which I will send to destroy you, and I will increase the famine upon you, and I will break your staff of bread. If you are one of Yahweh's elect, then the staff of your bread is not broken. Our bread is plentiful, and we feast at the table of Yahweh, having more abundant manna from heaven than we can ever consume in a lifetime. You've heard the expression, it's feast or famine. Salesmen understand what it means very well, but it is an accurate description of the last days. There is only one table at which you can feast, and that is the undefiled table of Yahweh. If you get bread somewhere else, I can tell you what's mixed in it. Oh, yeah. Verse 17, so I will send upon you famine and evil beasts, and they shall bereave thee, and pestilence and blood shall pass through thee, and I will bring the sword upon thee. I, Yahweh, have spoken it. Again, we can understand this verse in its physical, historical fulfillment. But as it is written in 1 Corinthians 10, verse 11, quote, now all these things happen unto them for ensamples, and they are written for our admonition, upon whom the ends of the world are come, close quote. Are you one of the wise of the end times spoken of by Daniel the prophet in chapter 12? We do not lack for the true bread of life, and Yeshua Christ has given us power over our enemies. Dragons, beware. Luke 10, verse 19. Behold, I give you power to tread on serpents and scorpions, and over all the power of the enemy, and nothing shall by any means hurt you. Do you believe that? I sure do. Our Father loves his children very much, and it grieves him as it grieved his Son in the Garden of Gethsemane to have to pour out his cup of wrath upon the disobedient and the wicked of this final generation. But it will happen exactly as it is written, exactly as he said it would, so that the people will know that our Father is indeed Adonai Yahweh. Okay, that ends today's study. We'll pick it up next time. And you all have a blessed day, and Yahweh keep you and protect you and cause his light to shine upon you. Amen.